Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another scintillating episode of the AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing podcast. And as always, it's going to be tips, strategies, ahas that we lead through for our hour together. As always, I like to start with a quote from my book, Snappy, Sappy, Salty Success for Authors and Writers. And it's this. If you don't envision, design, and create your author game plan, you'll end up either mimicking someone else's or not having one at all. If you do the former, it has little to do with your essence and your vision. If you do the latter, you create a blank slate. Either way, the results lead to your and your book's mediocrity. With that said, with us is the awesome Daniel Hall. He's back again. He's been a guest many times. And Daniel and I did a program based on my book on how to create a $1 million speech. With that, it's how, and just the disclaimer, it's how I sold 1 million books. It's how I created $5 million in combined book sales in revenues and speaking fees. Well, what we're going to do today is give you the tips, the ahas, the essence, the strategies to create $1 million speech in less than 30 minutes. And we're going to use AI to be the gooser to move you into that. And with me, Daniel, who has written how many books now? Daniel,
Oh,
yourself?
I don't know. I've kind of lost count, but
Lost
lots of
count.
them. Lots and
Lots of
lots
them.
of them.
Okay, so he gets to go into the gazillion category, a gazillion books very successfully on a variety of different topics, including his own as original, as well as he has an awesome strategy of tapping into the public domain and voila, creating other books. We're going into this to speech, and I should tell you his primary. There's two websites I want you to know about. It's danielhallwebinars.com and also realfastresults.com that you can strategize and move along with him to see what in the heck this guy's up to next. But with that, success is in his middle name. Strategies, promotion, ideas, innovation is also. He's got one of those long middle names. But with that, we're going to jump into how to craft $1 million presentation using the freebies that AI will give to you based on my book, How to Create a $1 Million Speech. So Daniel, I'm going to throw it to you and let you kind of lead off here, and then I'll interact with you.
That's excellent. And thank you so much, as always. It's always fun to work with you, Judith. So I'm excited about what we're going to cover today, because a lot of what a lot of authors struggle with is the ability to put together programs that actually, first off, sell to meeting planners, etc., and then also to sell your book, your other programs, your coaching, whatever it is that you are offering to the actual audience that's in front of you. And that's one of the reasons why I was so intrigued with the formula that you set out in your book. And that's one of the reasons why when I read through the book and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such great stuff. So much of it is doable for anyone that is serious about building their brand, their income, their book sales, all of that. And I thought to myself, I could take what Judith has here, as you say, the essence of what you have, and distill it down into something that will allow AI to help all of us to implement those hard-won strategies, those proven methods that are in the book. So that's when I approached you and I said, hey, Judith, let's allow me to train a generator that will incorporate your strategies. incorporate these methods into an AI that would then help other authors and other experts to implement your your process. And you said yes, so I was very happy with that. And what I wanted to do now is actually kind of show off what we're talking about. So I am going to share my screen here in just a moment, and from there, I will then show you what this is all about. But while I have that ability to do that, I will say that that this is a easy to put together and use generator with any large language model, LLM. Okay, and the big one, of course, or the big two, are ChatGPT and Claude AI, and there are many others. But this strategy that we're about to walk through, and this generator, will work in all of them, including the free versions. So what I wanted to do is just sort of demo what we've done. And by the way, you can get this very generator right here at this page, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But this is the generator right here. It's it starts here, and then it kind of goes on. And we actually have two generators. One that's where you basically copy and paste the generator. This is it right here into ChatGPT, and then start answering questions, because chat will start asking you questions based on your topic. So what I wanted to do is do precisely that, is to sort of walk through how this works in chat, and maybe you and I can build a speech together very quickly. So I've highlighted the generator that you see here, and a generator just sort of a fancy word for a complex prompt. It's a little bit more than just a regular prompt, but it's one that you could easily just copy and paste into chat, and then right down here it will start asking questions. So you can it says, hey, got it, let's start building your speech workshop using Dr. Briles' proven formula. And then it asks the first question. And the thing that I really like about this is it also will give you an example. So in other words, an example of the type of sentence that it's looking for in the previous question, right? So so Judith, play along with me. It's asking the question now: what is your speech or workshop topic in one clear sentence?
And I want to do an ad on this, because I can't tell you, over my 40 years that I've been speaking around the world, all 50 states, 20 countries, I have had countless people say, I want to do what you do. I want to speak like you do. And my question is, well, what a great idea. What is your expertise? What is your book about? What's your message? And then it's like the headlights and the deer. Well, they thought maybe I could give them an idea of what they could speak about. No, 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 no. You have got to bring your passion and your wisdom to the party. Don't expect someone else to do this. This is your book, your idea, your expertise, maybe pushing out your company, your consulting, your concept, whatever it is. It's got to start with you. It's got to start with you.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of this generator, is it susses that out of you. So you don't have to think as much. You don't, we all have a limited amount of bandwidth, right? We have mental bandwidth, and there's only so much that we could do in a day. So that's one of the things that this generator does, is it helps you to pull out those nuggets, that part of your expertise that is necessarily saleable, and then transforms it into a outline for your speech. And that's one of the reasons why this is so valuable for lots of authors that are looking, that are serious about building their speaking career. And by the way, and I know you could speak to this as well, Judith, but where is the best place to sell in the entire world? It's from the platform, right? It's getting in front of people and speaking. And that's one of the reasons why this is such a big doggone deal, because this allows you to bring your expertise to the platform and then deliver it in such a way that people want to take you home. You know, that's what it's all about, right? So,
right. And here's, I want to add this on. When you say, a lot of people, I can feel them shrinking back, but I don't want to pitch my book from the platform. Guess what? When you have a great talk, when you can address the pain of those in your audience and give ideas and solutions to get them to get bailed out, you've sold your book because they want to
exactly,
take you home. See, so
exactly.
there are so many subtle ways of selling and making money. You don't have to be sledgehammering people.
Oh
Right. So
no.
all right. So Daniel, let's play with something that I did many years ago.
Okay.
Because, and I'm going to give a before and after. All
Okay.
right. Because I wrote a book. It was a pioneering book, and it dealt with women in ethics and women in toxic behavior in the workplace. My doctorate came from that. And I didn't have my message all together. I mean, I did a dissertation, got my doctorate. I wrote a book called Woman to Woman: From Sabotage to Support. But my feeling was, well, everyone needs the book. All women in the workplace should have this book. Every HR department should be using this book to increase their productivity and reduce their turnover costs. But I couldn't articulate it that easily then. All right. It was always thinking woman should have this book. Every workplace needs this book. What women are doing is just awful, undermining other women. So the deal, I narrowed it down to, contrary to popular belief, men don't discriminate. Women do. That immediately got meeting planners' attention. What do you mean? We all know men discriminate. Mm-mm-mm-mm. They don't discriminate against each other. Women do. And I could keep coming back and doing that. So let's start with my speech is going to be on the toxicity of the female-dominated workplace.
The toxicity
Mhm.
of the female dominated
Workplace.
dominated work.
Okay. And then I'm going to give you a little add-on, how to
Okay.
recognize it, how to deal with it.
How to recognize.
So what I'm doing here, everyone, is I'm identifying the problem. I know what the pain is, and I'm going to give you some ideas on how to get rid of it.
Okay. So let's go. It's going to then take that. We're going to submit that. It's thinking about it.
I know. Think, crunch, 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 crunch. Here we go.
And it says, great topic. There you go. Great topic. Let's move on to the next question.
Hot.
Yeah. What is the main premise or the objective, the why of your talk in one sentence? And then this is the other thing that is so great about this generator, is it, you see how it keys off of your topic. So it's now actually going to dynamically give you new examples based on your previous responses. So here it says, example, the workplace can become toxic when the power dynamics and communication styles clash. This workshop will help attendees recognize signs of toxicity and equip them with strategies to address and mitigate it effectively. So that's the example. Now you can take it verbatim and basically copy and paste it and move on. Or you
and I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you, no, don't do that. You can tweak it, but this will let you develop what you've got going. I mean, would I use a word like mitigate? Are you freaking kidding me? But would you? Right. But the toxicity I use all the time. Strategies I use all the time. Keynote speeches I use all the time. And I think if you're focusing on a workshop, you want to have the workshop, but maybe keynote speech, because there's a difference between keynotes and workshops. Just saying.
Yep. Okay.
So,
So
but I can continue with this. We can continue. All right.
I should take this example here.
Yeah, yeah, we can play with
Okay.
it.
All right.
I'm totally good playing with it.
Okay. So, and that's the other thing that that's great about this generator, right? Is you can play with it. You could kind of make it your own or change it like we've done here, and then it comes down to the next question. Question number 3. This is excellent. Now we have the main premise and objective. Let's move on. How will you open your presentation? You can choose from, again, this is taken from your formula. You could start with a story, a statistic, reference, quote, or other. And then, of course, it gives you, again, a tailored to your topic, and you may want to change this. But the details, it says open with a brief story with a female employee navigating subtle toxic behaviors like exclusion, gossip, or undermining in a female-dominated team. Highlight how it has impacted her morale and productivity. Purpose, to immediately connect with the audience by showcasing a relatable scenario. And then it goes on to say, what type of opening will you choose, and can you describe it?
All right, so let me just, I'm gonna take what that came up all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
I created a series of videos for a television and internal healthcare, a television channel, and we called it, it dealt with how to deal with red ink behaviors. That example of what they came up with is exactly one of the red ink behaviors. I had several of them. We had actors. I had friends come over. We had scrubs. We had all kinds of things, and we played. We had a wonderful time. Now, when I'm in an audience, I had a deal, the screen up, meet my red ink behavior, actors. All right, the players, the red ink behavior players, and I had written up scripts that I had gone around to tables, and I'm chatting with people, and I said, would you be one of my players? And I would give them each one of them. I'm telling you how I used to work, Daniel.
I love
I
it.
would I would give them each one of them a scene, and I said, I just want you to read it exactly as it says. What you add to it in your own behavior, your tone, your nastiness, your whatever is fine with me. And I'm telling you, and this was for the healthcare profession, some of these nurses really got into it.
I'm sure. It's probably not too far from home. As a nurse myself, by the way, I
exactly.
recognize what you're talking about here.
Yeah, so they really got into it, but we had a whole series. So I took that as an ongoing workshop series. For a speech, I would actually want to open with something that connects me to them. I'm not a nurse, okay? My doctorate's in business administration, but I read every nursing journal. I subscribed. I lived in the nursing world for over 20 years as I talked to hospitals and nursing associates. I knew them. I too would stand in line at a grocery store and look at people's hands and think, oh, good stick. When I'm looking at their hands and face. I mean, I was so bad. All right. So Um, but I opened with usually in this situation, and it was something like this. It was November 16th, 1981, 9 a.m. A phone call came in from one of my banks, and on the other side, the other line, it said, "Be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring all your financial statements, your up-to-date assets. Do not be late." That was my phone call. What happened at 9 a.m. was my world came undone because I discovered that my good friend and my partner had embezzled what would cost me over $1 million by the time
Wow.
it was done. Okay. So it's a reveal. I mean, all of a sudden, when you start with a story or really an outrageous statistic, um, that you pull your audience in right away and it sticks. That's why that's important.
Mhm.
So I'm a huge believer in using your own stories. I
For
mean, it could
sure.
have happened to you at 5 years old on your first day in kindergarten. I don't care. I don't care. But it's the connection that brings it in. I know that I had a story, the true story that happened to me where my underwear fell off when I stepped out of a limo to go to a big speech. What in the hell are you going to do? Okay, so I ended up using that to tie directly in to open my book on the confidence factor. Or, because let me tell you, I lost my confidence, people. But let me, and I
You
didn't
lost more than
return.
that, right?
Yeah, I didn't return to Seattle for 5 years because I'm sure that someone saw me lose my underwear. Right. So, but it's those stories that, you can bring in humor or you can bring in pain, but you're a person and you connect with them and they're going to ride the hour with you. That's so important. That's why I brought that up.
Okay, so how do we want to answer this question? In other words, what type of opening will you choose, and can you describe it?
I would start with the story. I
Okay,
always start with the story.
okay. So what's the story?
And the story for this one,
Mhm.
it started with a phone call on a
Yeah, it
it,
started with a phone call,
phone
and we
call.
we don't have to make it like super long.
No,
Um,
nope. But but also what you're looking for is triggers that you can
yes,
come back to and redefine and then you expand. I mean, I can put an entire speech on a 3x5 card just with a few words in that because I know my speech. By this
right,
point, I know where I'm going with it.
right, right,
And and also it's very important for someone giving a presentation is that you better know your audience. You better be able to, because I've walked into situations where I have gone to the meeting planner and said, "There's too much going on here," and the presentation you hired me to do, I think it's the wrong one, and I'd like to recommend we switch over. I have done that, Daniel, many
hmm
times.
hmm
So anyway, I would start with a story. That would be the number one thing. And
hmm
sometimes in a story, let's talk about timing of your story. You're talking about it could be a 1 minute, or it like if I did the underwear story, it's 4 minutes. I mean, I have them laughing. I had people come up and said, "Oh my God, something like that happened to my mother." I mean, it was a great audience connection.
right.
It had nothing to do with my speech, except for I lost my confidence. I lost my self-esteem, and had to rebuild it. But with that, I mean, it is a hoot. But for the serious story of the toxicity, I would maybe open with that it started with a phone call because that's the revelation. That's the one that roped me into a world I knew nothing about. I didn't understand embezzlement. I'd never been embezzled before in doing that. And it was done by a female, a close friend. So that's the connection. See that this is the bridge. I'm bringing in the toxicity of women and the blatant, sometimes just trust without having proof that you should trust. That's where I'm going here.
Okay. So to kind of get us moving a little bit in this more in this direction. So I'm writing in here. It started with a phone call and ended with the revelations of a female partner
Partner
embezzling
had stolen money from account without my knowledge.
embezzling okay,
Yeah, it
had
started with
had
45. Yeah, well, we
had
don't need to get
stolen
into that
money.
deal. From an account that I had personally guaranteed. By the time it was over, I had lost everything, including $1 million.
Okay. So the story that we're starting with is it started with a phone call and ended with revelations of a female partner who had stolen money from an account that I had personally guaranteed. By the time it was over, I had lost everything, including $1 million.
Yeah. So when I say everything, I'm talking about my home, my health. I got cancer, I'm sure from the stress. I mean, it was a bad time in my life.
Okay, let's see what it does with
Yeah.
that.
All right.
So, it says powerful opening. Who would have known? Here's how your opening could look in structure. Details. Share the personal
Mhm.
story of how a phone call revealed a betrayal by a female partner who stole money from a personally guaranteed account. Highlight the fallout, including losing everything and $1 million. The purpose: to immediately capture attention, evoke an emotional response, and set the stage for discussing toxicity in female-dominated workplaces. And then it goes on to
Mhm.
say, let's build on this with the next question. What are your 3 key points that will form the meat of your presentation? Then it gives you some examples here. For
Mhm.
example, recognizing common toxic behaviors in female dominated
Mhm.
workplaces,
Mhm.
understanding the root causes, communication styles, competition, and power dynamics. And number 3, strategies to address toxicity, fostering collaboration, setting boundaries, and building resilience. What are your key points?
Okay. So actually, all of those work. We can add on more, but I think that it's important that you don't blow yourself away with too many of them. 3 to 5 key points is always a good way to go. And how you would lead into that. Before I would exit, the $1 million loss, I may ask my audience, you may have experienced betrayal of a confidence or a situation from a colleague. In my case, it was female. Now, I also will tell everyone here who's just listening in, when this happened, it involved a situation, involved a little boutique hotel we were building, and that I had to step in and learn how to run a hotel.
Oh boy.
And I've always told people, God did not put me on this earth to be a hotel operator. I ended up putting it in the bankruptcy. I turned it around. I paid every creditor 100 cents on the dollar. But to me, it was a frickin' failure. Now, to learn how to turn it around, I went back to school and I got my doctorate. Everything I did tied into it. So I will let my audience know there is this connection. And because I did a national study on female behavior, there was a difference between a female doctor, like nursing, and engineers. Okay. So now you've got to, when you lead it with maybe an unconnected situation in the audience, you've got to have a bridge in your opening to then bring it into your body of these key points. Does that make sense to you, Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I just felt it was important to say that, but I'm a huge believer, stories, make them your own. Okay, so our key points that we go into, that we had the toxicity, that number one was dealing with the toxicity.
Recognizing common toxic behaviors in female dominated workplaces. That's number
Yep,
1. And then
right.
understanding the root causes, communication styles, competition, and power dynamics. Number 2. And strategies to address toxicity, fostering collaboration, setting boundaries, and building resilience. And
Great.
then, so I've entered
Just,
that and it
just
says,
use it all.
great points. Now let's dive deeper into each one to make
Mhm.
them impactful. So it says for your first key point, recognizing common toxic behaviors in female dominated workplaces, what supporting material will you use? Choose from, and then
Perfect.
once again, story, example, suggestions, advice.
All right. So in my case, I had a national study of an exclusive female dominated workplaces. And I could juxtaposition them with mixed workplaces and male dominated. That was my dissertation that we did in.
Okay.
And from that, it evolved because time went by and I kept doing it because when I did my first one, it was a general. And how I ended up getting in, just as a side note, into healthcare, several directors of nursing heard me speak and said, "You need to do a study just on us, Judith."
Mhm.
And that's how I landed in healthcare. I never thought I would be speaking in healthcare. So, what I want to say to all of you, it could be that your sweet spot, where you belong, has not revealed itself yet. And
Amen to that.
yeah, and when it comes up, you never know where it's going to go. I loved the 20 plus years I exclusively worked in healthcare. I mean, how many other people who are non-medical persons stand in line and check out people's veins? I do. All right.
Right.
So with that said, um, I I would, how am I going to support it? Number one, I did a lot of interviews with people for the book I wrote. So I have their stories that I can share. Number two, I had studies. So I could statistically say in a female dominated workplace, this is what goes on. In a mixed workplace, this is what goes on. In a male dominated workplace. So I could come back and say, contrary to popular belief, women um, men don't discriminate, women do. And
Right.
then I had the numbers to crunch out to show it. And then from that also evolved other things that women wouldn't confront it. Men made a decision we found in our studies. And so we would bring these in our points. Men made a decision that either I'm going to confront the bastard or the bitch, that's what they would say, and
Mhm.
deal with this, or I'm going to let it go. It's not worth my time. Women did not consistently do that. When I brought out this point, Daniel, I can't tell you the heads that nodded in the audience. I cannot, they are with me that
Gotcha.
women don't confront. What they do is they go tell their friend what Bertha did. And then the friend says, "Oh my God, let me tell you what she did to me 20 years ago." I mean, the elephant mentality memory that came out. It was awesome. It,
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. But here's the thing I think we should also highlight here. You don't need a study to do this.
no,
Yeah,
no,
you
you
don't
don't.
need to do all this work or write this book and write a dissertation. You don't need that. You just need
No.
stories from your life, right? Stories that illustrate the next point that you're trying to make, which is once again one of the reasons why this generator kind of susses those out. And so in this case, what we've done here is it gives you another example. It says, hey, share some specific examples of toxic behavior such as gossip, passive aggressive communication, and exclusionary tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to go ahead and use that one. And it says excellent choice. Here's how it would look in an outline, and then recognizing competent toxic behaviors in a female dominated workplace. And it also
Mm-hmm.
gives us another example.
Mm-hmm.
So it does that for us. And then it comes us to the next point, which is understanding the root causes of communication styles and power dynamics. What supporting material will you use? And it goes on to give us another example here, which I'm going to use. It says break down the underlying reasons for toxicity, such as differences in communication styles or competition for limited opportunities, and suggest ways to identify the root causes. And so we're going to use that as our next example. And it says great choice. And then it goes, here's how to fill out our next step in the outlining, which is to, in question 7 here, which is what our third point that we mentioned before, is strategies to address toxicity, fostering collaboration, setting boundaries, and building resilience. And then it
Mm-hmm.
gives us another example, right? Offer
Mm-hmm.
practical advice on fostering collaboration, such as implementing team building exercises, setting clear boundaries through open communications, and building personal resilience through mindfulness and and stress management techniques, which again, I'm going to, and of course you could play with this. You could add your own stories to answering these questions to guide it. But essentially it says, perfect, here's how to fit this into your outline. And then it takes us to The next thing, which is to address toxicity and fostering collaboration, etc., which is our third point. And it gives us once again a really good example here, which says end with an empowering statement encouraging attendees to take actions by identifying and addressing toxicity in their workplaces, emphasizing potential for a healthier, more productive work environment. What type of closing? So this is, again, you're closing your talk, right, Judith? And what's coming to a head here, a couple of things that we may want to play with, is the fact that you've now connected with your audience, number one.
Right.
You have shown them that you can, that you understand them and that you have solutions, number two. Number three, you've given them at least one solution that can move the needle for good in their life. And number four, now we're ending it back to where they can go next, which is your book, your coaching program, the next, your consultancy, whatever it is that you are bringing to market, with your solutions. So, and it says here, we're going to end with an empowering statement, and it says here, great. Here's how to use your cloud. And now it says, now we've got our entire thing, right? We've got our whole, all of the questions answered here. Now let's go down and check out the first iteration of our outline. See, it's actually writing it for us. And it starts here. Hey, it actually gives us a topic, the toxicity of a female dominant workplace, how to recognize it, how to deal with it, which was exactly your point coming in. And then it starts with the story. So here you've got your 5 to 7 minute story here, right? The main content, which is again 5 to 10 minutes. Again, this keys off exactly what you have in the book. Except again, the thing about the difference between a book, we want you, and you definitely would get huge value out of going to get and reading and digesting Judith's book. But this generator is a easy to use companion that goes with the book, so that you're not doing these things with I should say, you're using AI to once again to draw out those key elements that are in your formula, right, Judith? So that's what we see here with this event.
Right. Now, I think that's what's important, that when I'm doing key points, right, we had 3. I usually allow about 10 points, 10 minutes for a point to go through. There could be a story or a stat. And one of the things that you do want to do is, when you get to a point, my formula includes that you finish a point, repeat what your point is, and then bridge it to your next point.
Right.
And then go into it and decide. And I like to vary them. I had a lot of activities on that. So for one of the things let's go back to when we started, Daniel, when I mentioned red ink behaviors, that I developed a great activity. And they like activities. They like to get involved. It's not where but there's that fear factor. Oh, she's going to make us get up and hug each other. No, I am not going to do that. But I had an activity called the red ink behaviors, and I did all kinds of stuff where, I roped in someone to become my reporter. So I had a great card trick I did with them. I did all kinds of stuff when I was on the stage, Daniel. And to rope somebody in, and sometimes if I had a huge audience, I needed to, because I needed to oscillate back and forth. But have that. And then if they were in tables, I always liked round tables that they worked at in a crescent. Or it could be rows, half of a row, and the back and the front work with each other. I mean, you work that out. And then I had a silly thing to do to make the one person a recorder in the group. And then they were instructed to identify things that they wish someone had told them before they came into that workplace, to work with them, to work there, that it would made their life so much easier. All right. So I'm looking, goes back to the toxicity, because there's a game that often gets played to see if the new guy or new gal is going to figure out. You never sit in that chair because you're in deep doo-doo if you sit in that chair in a meeting. That kind of silly stuff. But sometimes it's really dangerous stuff that goes on. And I always told the management team that brought me in, if when I did that activity, if I heard anything that I felt they needed to know about right now to deal with, I would notify them. Otherwise, I told management and the executive team when I was working with staff, you stay away. It's me and them. You stay away. So we have neutral territory, right? So with that said, I did activities. And another activity that Daniel would tie in with the closing, I ended up creating, and how I introduced it was, I'm embarrassed to say that it took me 20 years to alter the original conflict resolution script. And there was 4 points to that. I added 3 more that became killers to get results. Killers. All right. And I had people go through it. They verbalized it with me. And then I would have one final wrap up. Now, I just did a sell for the book because the script's in the book. I just didn't say that. I didn't say that. I eventually made bookmarks that I sold for $5 each with the script on it, Daniel. But and then for groups, I wrote 10 of them together and they got a discount for $4.
By the way, probably much higher profit margins in the bookmark than the book. Just wanted to point that out.
Oh, you mean from 27 cents to $5? Yes.
Yeah. So people like, oh, well, I want to sell my book. Well, not if you can make a whole lot more to sell a bookmark. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and add a purple ribbon on it too. So with that said, though, but that takeaways and giveaways and that kind of thing, I rarely told my true personal story. I mean, some people get into their life all of us have stories and woes and stuff. I stayed away from that kind of thing. And because I think when you're closing, where you're getting to kind of the diamond in the rough and the call to action, is I think it's important to remember, and I say this to everyone when you're working on a speech, when you create your closing, you can make them laugh, you can make them cry, or you can make them think, but you can't just leave them. So when you come in with if it's an emotional pull through, I think one of the best things is just to say, when you're done with that, thank you for being with me here today. And then I would just step back a couple of steps from the stage and let them absorb what I had said. So, but it worked for me very successfully. So.
Obviously, and that's the great thing about what you've built into this formula, right? That you can, in fact, use it and duplicate what you've done. And again, here are our 3 points. Here's our entire outline that we've done, and talking it through and going off and to really expand on each section. And yet we've got the whole outline right here. Point 1, 2, 3, 4, Q&A section, closing. And
I want to say, I got to say something about Q&A.
Yes.
If you can avoid Q&A, avoid it at all costs.
And why is that?
Because a lot of meeting planners are going to make sure that you leave time. If you're going to do that, if you must do that, number one, people are, plant a question to come to you, or you can do it yourself. Before we started, I talked with several of you, and many of you asked this one question. All right, start it so you maintain control, because when you go into Q&A, you've given it away. So do not do your final point. I would open it up saying, Now, I promised Georgia that I would give you some time for some questions. So before I give you my final point, let me open it up. And I'm going to start with one that many of you have already asked me. That gives them permission to loosen up. And then you take it back in control yourself. I'm
Yep.
just saying that's why.
Yep, I love that. And one of the other things I just wanted to point out here that like we've got here, point number one, recognizing common toxic behaviors in female dominated workplaces. The other thing that this can do for us is you can come back down here now that we have our outline, the beginning of our outline. We can actually come in here and say expand point one. By the way, this is also in the generator, and then it will do that as well. So, and you can do that for point one, point two, point three, etc. And there you go. It says recognizing common behaviors in female dominant, and then introduction, and it gives you all of this. That again, you could pick and choose, use, not use, whatever kind of makes your speech yours, right? But look at this. We've got like a page and a half
Huge.
Of additional material that we can incorporate directly into our speech. And then we could go on. So we like that. And we go expand into, or expand point two. Same thing. And it does it. Understanding the root causes of communication styles, competition, and power dynamics. And it does the same. It gives us about a page and a half of additional material. We can, again, pick, choose. But again, here's the beautiful thing about what this does is it allows you to play. It allows you to partner with the AI to really bring out the distillation of your core message that does in fact follow your process, Judith. And that's when you're doing that consistently over and over, and you're not having to think, oh, does this fit here? Does this fit there? No, it fits every time. That's the beautiful thing about this. So I just wanted to make sure that folks saw this. And by the way, this is the long form of the generator. Okay, we have another generator that's also a part of this deal that only has two inputs. It's and I'll actually, let's see.
Oh, the easy peasy formula.
Yeah, it's the easy peasy formula, and where is it? It's right here, and here it is. The only two things you've got to put in here is a keynote speech on the topic and your length of time. So if you want to do a workshop, so if you're really pressed for time, you could use that second generator as well. So it's a little harder to guide, obviously, but it's also a heck of a lot quicker. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how quickly you need to accomplish it. So I just wanted to make sure that folks understood that was a part of it as well, right? And by the way, the place you can go to get this, and Judith, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but it's right here at danielhallwebinars.com/5M speech. Okay, for $5 million speech. Daniel Hall Webinars /5M speech. So what have you decided to do with this, Judith? I know that we talked about pricing on this, and you wanted to go a certain way, and I was completely cool with that. But what are we going to do with this?
Well, Daniel and I did a test run, everybody, to do it. And I said, I want to do a podcast on this because that, every time we do it or we play with it, or we actually did not do it the way we just did this, which was non-scripted, but Daniel and I have been both speaking for a long time, and we can lead off of each other. Which is one of the things that is important to understand that I think one of the successes in speaking is you need to have a flexibility factor into you. Because
Absolutely.
sometimes that when you thought you were going to do a 90-minute presentation, you discover it's now 15 minutes. What are you going to do? Right. So, and you do have to deal with it. There are several things which I do go through in the book. This is what you do when you're in a time crunch. But that I think that, we're going to do, we can do this for a first run. And then I think we need to bump up. I mean, it says starting at just $7. So we were offering, saying, okay, we're going to give you tippy toes and let you do it on that. But if you think that, if you believe, like both Daniel and I believe, there is huge value in it. I mean, I told you my numbers. This is what I have made when I finally got it, and that it's far more valuable. So I think that we probably need to bring it up to $99 at some point, Daniel. When you do it, I will let you guide that trigger.
Okay. Well, right now, here's the great thing about what we're offering. It is at the moment, pay what you want with a $7 minimum. So that's you pay what you want, but yeah, the more you pay, I got to tell you, the more you value it, the more value you will get from it, believe it or not. So we don't want to, if you're serious, or if you want to just kick the tires, sure, pay the $7, try it out. But if you're really serious about your speaking success, pay more, literally, because you will get more value from it, because you will value it more. So the place to go is right here. And by the way, this is what the page looks like. There's a headline that says the $5 million speaking formula meets AI. And that's basically what you get. You get the generator that we just demoed at Daniel Hall Webinars /5M speech. And that's SPECH, by the way, 5M speech. And put in your pay what you want, but put in your price starting at $7 and grab it right now.
And I will tell you, for a shortcut, just to get started, to get your toe in the water, this is where you would want to go. Plus, I want you to get my book, because I'll tell you what the secret sauce here is. This is what it looks like. This is the latest edition, How to Create a $1 Million Speech. You can go to the magic big A in the sky and grab it there. And well, and I highly recommend it. So it's an ebook, it's an audio book, it's in certainly print. I'm going to tell you, get the print. In it, there is a chapter that has my entire contract that I paid an attorney $1,000 to put together for me. You have my permission to suck it off and just change the words to fit you on that. There's no reason why you have to pay that kind of money. And going through it, and I explain in it why each clause is in here, because this is to protect you and covering, because sometimes there's cancellations. So should you get paid? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Or they instantly rebook it. But do you get paid? Yes, you do. How far out can they cancel without having to pay? Oh, mega months, people. So because that's what it is. And Daniel, I mean, I've talked to you a little bit, but I'm going to let you all know that I actually have a full-blown video series coming, whole intensive video series, how to make speaking a career. And going on. What we're talking about is maybe just a little short thing. I'm talking about how to expand your entire, from your website and everything else on this baby. So we just have one more video to do, and then it's like publish.
Nice.
And that is going to be a lot more money. So let's start the test drive. I'm going to say that through January, this is January, a new year, 2025. Daniel's got the special price on, and then it immediately goes up February 1st. Stop at a much higher price. That's what I'm saying. So with that, Daniel, thank you so much for being with me today. I loved it.
Yes, it's lots of fun, and I'll just leave folks with this one this one message. When you understand the power that you have when you speak from a stage, and by the way, we're on a stage right now, could be a podcast, could be a webinar, it could be an in-person type of an event. But when you realize the great power that you have there, you will really devote, and it is our intention that you devote yourself to learning that, to gaining those skills, because Mamma Mia, it can definitely change your life.
And with that said, Mamma Mia, jump on, get involved. I have to thank NC Graphics and FPGD.com graphics for being our supporter for this episode. Thanks again.